Every once in a while, someone crosses my path and I instantly know I have to extend a podcast invitation to that person. When I heard Rocky on my good friend Eric Allen's podcast, The Eric Allen Show, I instantly knew I needed to invite Rocky over to the Conscious Investor. What's really cool is that Eric and Rocky are both going to be speaking at the Conscious Investor Growth Summit, March 8th through 10th at the Coeur d'Alene Resort in Idaho. Rocky was the last speaker I invited, and it was very much I hope that this works out because he's speaking on so many different stages and such. What stood out to me most about Rocky is how grounded he is in his mindset and how he is able to communicate that. Strong communicators are able to relate to an audience and help them transition an old belief into something new. They're able to help people see a life from another vantage point in a way that helps them expand their potential, expand their understanding in a really profound way. And that's what Rocky does for anyone he comes in contact with. You want to make sure that you are following him on all the social platforms, and you want to make sure you listen to this deeply sincere conversation from start to finish and harvest the gems along the way. Let us know what you gained from it by leaving a comment down in the show notes. So excited to have you on the Conscious Investor, Rocky. So I want to know, as does a conscious investor, what do you do and how did you get started?
Yeah, great question. So I am a challenger, truth teller, and trusted guide. And what that means is I spend my time in coaching and in keynote speaking, helping high achievers get out of their own way so that they can build a life they believe in without sacrificing who they are. I have found over the course of my life with most people that I talk to, especially high achievers, and let me categorize that. That does not mean that you make $1 million. That doesn't make you a high achiever. A high achiever is somebody who believes life is meant to be lived, and you are in a constant pursuit of what else can you live in your life. And so in that, finding that what prevents us from building a life that we really want without sacrificing who we are is, number one, we don't know what we want. And that's not because we are dumb or we're ignorant. It's simply because we haven't given ourselves the freedom to allow ourselves to ask ourselves the question, what do I want? And we get caught in not knowing what we want because we don't know who we are. And a lot of times we inevitably live a life based on what somebody else says we should be doing. Even if we're not conscious of it, we're living a life that's based on somebody else's story. And a lack of clarity in who we are leads to a lack of confidence, which inevitably causes a space to go, I don't actually think I know what I want because I don't know who I am. And I don't even know if I'm good enough to get what I would want if I could even dream of it. And I have spent the majority of my life, I would say since birth, but we all know it's a little dramatic, but at least for the majority of my life in pursuit of where do I fit? And where do I belong? Where is my home? And I mean that both literally and metaphorically. Parents got divorced when I was young. Went to 13 schools before I graduated high school. I tell you that not as a sad story. I'm fine. I'm 40, been to a lot of counseling. I'm feeling good. Okay. So I don't say that as a bad thing, but as a relevance to those of you that are listening, I'm a pretty firm believer of whatever happens to us between the ages of 6 and 12 that we do to survive. And when I say survive, I don't mean life or death, unless that's your story, but whatever we see to be true in the world is a very accurate depiction of how we operate as an adult. And I operated between 6 and 12 as I was a new kid at a new school, meeting new people, using my words in a way to get your attention so that when the time was right for me to really hone and pull you in and be my friend on the third day of school so we could have a summer party and I wasn't the weird new kid, I learned how to do that really quickly. And so take that and magnify that over 40 years and trying to figure out where you fit and where you belong and what you do. Inevitably, I found myself graduating college, went to a summer camp, was a director there for a few years, was on pastoral staff at a church and was a pastor for a few years. Realized that for me, I think my life and my calling, my desire, my goal, my hope is to be in the world and helping people break away the hardness and callousness that comes with life, because I believe life is hard. It's beautiful, but it's hard, and it's so celebratory and amazing, and it's hard. hard. And so if I can be a catalyst to helping break those things away, to helping you get out of your own way, if I could be an expert at anything in my life, if I could be a people expert to really help you see that ultimately at the root of it, I would say the fundamental truth is that you are good. And so I spent the last decade or so mostly in the corporate space, which is always fun because I'm the guy that's known as the guy with no resume, because I've never had one, never held a corporate job before. But it's a really beautiful thing to be in a space and help individuals find clarity in who you are, a language for what makes you you. I'm not a psychic or a guru, and hopefully today you find out a lot more about you than you do about me. But in that's my goal on the stage. That's my goal in coaching individuals is if I can help you see you clearly, you may in fact be able to build a life that you want without sacrificing who you are.
Mic drop. Thank you, conscious investor, for listening. And okay, there's so many things you probably like. So if you're watching on the YouTube channel, then you saw my head's down and I'm writing like all sorts of questions and like just little comments, no rebuttals or anything like that. I promise. Okay, but you hit on so many trigger points of so many people, and I know that this is going to land for you, conscious investor, because so often we are wondering like, how do we even know what we really want in life? Like, how do we even discover that? Because to your point, you're absolutely correct that we are formed and shaped by the stories around us. Mm-hmm. And usually we are not being, and I've spoken about this, conscious investor, you've heard this so many times on the podcast. I talk about we're not playing the lead role in the script that we were given for us. We're playing like a supporting cast member in all these other scripts. And so we feel so fractured. And some people, I don't know. And this is what my question, my long-winded question for you is going to be like, how do we know which script is ours so that we can know what do we really want? What do we want? What drives us?
Yeah. Great question. So I would start with this. If you're the conscious investors, draw yourself a little T-chart. And on the left side of your T-chart, I want you to write stories told to me. And on the right side of your T-chart, I want you to write stories I tell myself. I have found, I call it the imposter within. Every human being has an imposter inside. Now I want to be clear. I'm not yet convinced that the imposter is a bad thing, okay? I think the imposter's voice oftentimes is that whisper of truth that we are afraid, if we believe, may actually be real. Because we hear about the imposter syndrome, but I think we hear that and we assume, oh, the imposter is the fake me. No, imposter syndrome is when you show up as you and the voice says, I think this is real. And you go, no way, it can't be, because I've never been this person before. So the imposter within is an exercise for us to go, wait, where do I even begin to see, am I living a story that's mine? So with our T-chart, left side stories told to me, right side stories I tell myself. Start on the left and just make yourself a quick list, just off the top of your head. Even while you're listening, you can pause this if you want to, but just think through, what are some of the stories told to you about you? These are things that sound like you are so this, always this, never this, to this, TOO. So let me give you some examples. Rocky, you're so intense. Rocky, you're too emotional. Rocky, calm down. Rocky, look at their face. Rocky, they don't really want that. Hey, can't you just be into sports and talk about Netflix? Why does everything have to be so serious? Why do you have to, hey, what is your real job? What do people pay you to do? What, Rocky? Okay, so these are all the stories told to me about me over the course of my life. Now,
me too, though. I'm interrupting to say, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm raising my hand. Yeah, I heard all those stories.
Yeah. And I think when we hear those, a couple of things are really important as you flush these out, because for some of us, we're going to kind of go on what I call like the upside down bell curve. We're going to do an upside down emotional bell curve. So we're like, oh, so fun. I can't wait to figure this out. Then we're going to go, wait, stories told to me about me. And then we're going to, instead of going up the bell curve, we're going to go under the bell curve and be like, wait a second, this doesn't feel the way that I think it feels. Like I thought the Conscious Investor podcast was to make me feel good. And I feel all of a sudden like I don't like what I'm finding. So a couple things. Number one, remind yourself that the stories told to you about you, almost 100% of the time, are a greater representation of the storyteller than they are the main character of the story. And you alluded to this earlier. When people tell me I'm intense, almost never have I had someone who is also intense tell me that. When I think about Rocky, you're too emotional, I don't know that I've ever had anyone who outwardly expressed their emotions tell me I'm too emotional. Those of you that would say you're an overthinker, you've never had somebody who is analytical and strategic, thoughtful, intentional, methodical tell you that you're an overthinker. Those of you that are too nice have never had a very kind, thoughtful, authentic person tell you you're too nice. And we could run ourselves on down the list. We tend to find, although I believe well-intentioned, Those of us who are communicating through words or actions, because it's both, stories told to us about us, are communicating an insufficiency that they have, and they're trying to protect us, I think, out of a good intention, to warn us that they don't want us to experience what they've experienced. And so they say, hey, be careful. Now, they don't say this, right? So I'm going to be the translator. They say,
Right.
they say, Julie, you're too intense. Julie, you're hard-headed. Julie, you better watch out because not everybody wants to do it your way, Julie. Right? Now, that's what they said. Story told to you about you. You better be careful because people think you're a pain. Now, let's rewind, and Rocky will be the translator here, right? I'll be your guide. But what if we could translate their words right before it got to your ear? I think they would sound something like this. In my experience, Julie, it is difficult for a woman who is independent and strong-willed and has a desire to create massive impact to be taken seriously in a world full of people who don't see it like that. And I have been hurt previously. Please be careful because I don't want you to get hurt like I did. The best way I know to tell you to do that is to not be like me. But we don't hear that. We hear who you are is not good. So be careful. And then all of the insufficiencies that they carried become insecurities that we carry. And we find ourselves living a story that is not ours. It was one that was written in an attempt, I think, most often to protect us, but potentially is wreaking the most havoc in our life because it's preventing us from being able to look in the mirror and say, I am good. So half of our exercise is stories told to you about you. Don't make it good or bad, not positive or negative, not right. Just make a list of those things. Then go to the other side of your chart and ask yourself, now you got to be willing to be honest with yourself. It's not going to work if you're going to try to fluff it up and tell me all the great things about you. We already know that. That's not the purpose of the exercise. And then tell me, what are the stories that you tell you about you? What's the way you talk to yourself that matches the story told to you about you? So when Julie gets on stage and she sees their faces and she's coming out swinging because she's doing her thing, and she sees there's a few people up front that are a little taken back, a little like, easy does it, killer. Like, I thought that's not why we were here. Well, the stories she tells herself occasionally are like, this isn't working. Calm down. Don't stand up. You should have a seat. Maybe pull the microphone away a little bit. Maybe don't yell so much. Just, it's not that important. It's not really that big of a deal. Where we find, and I use the word collision on purpose, where we find the stories told to us about us and the stories we tell ourselves, where those collide, where there's a collision, it's creating an impact. Most of the time I find that impact is a fear, doubt, obstacle, or insecurity. When we have the capacity to identify what that is, the doubt, hey, I should tone it down a bit because women aren't supposed to be like this, we find ourselves kind of recoiling. We find ourselves back on our heels on defense, just trying to keep the bad things in life away. If we can find that impact point, if we can find that collision point, and we can begin to pull the thread, it's kind of like a tapestry, like a wove. If we can pull the thread of that thing and kind of unravel it, we can go, wait a second, that first story is not mine, which means the second story can't be mine either, because I was basing that off of what somebody else told me. And I'm not trying to get too woo-woo on us, but what if I just said, I am intense and I am good? What if we could say, I am emotional deeply and I am good? What if you could say, I am kind, thoughtful, intentional, and methodical, and love to be analytical and strategic in my decision making, and I am good? I think that we would find our capacity to dream and plan about what we wanted would get exponentially closer to us if we believe that the person in pursuit of what we wanted was good. But it requires the work to unravel the story that was given to us in order for us to begin to craft a story that we're willing to write moving forward.
I love this so much. And I love the care and attention and detail that you have given to that entire exercise. And the fact that we can stay away from the value statements. And I think that there's a shift in culture that is progressing away from everything has to be right, wrong, good, bad, and all of that, because it really doesn't. I find myself even in the car with my kids saying, like, it doesn't matter if, so and so likes that music or that food or whatever. Like, that's what makes us us. That's what makes us each unique. Like, yay for them for liking that. It does not, there's no value assigned to that. And to take this as with a little personal short story here is I can tell that one of my kids struggles with this, and we were watching. I'm a Star Wars nerd. I love Star Wars. And so I was sitting on the couch with my son. Solo, that movie has been, I'm like, I got to watch Solo. So my daughter fell asleep. My son and I are laying there on the couch. He's a man child, 15, and he's the biggest person in our family. And still wants to snuggle up with mom. And there's a line in there. I think you'll appreciate this. And Kira says to young Solo, they used to be, like boyfriend, girlfriend and stuff. And now time has gone on. And she's like, you are good. And he says, no, I'm not. I'm an outlaw. No, I'm not. And every time she's like, you're one of the good ones. You're one of the good ones. And it's so interesting how we want to like change that narrative into a value statement. And then we want to like even reject because it doesn't match what the story we've been telling. It's like, no, the script, no, I have the script right here. And it's like, wait a second, you edited that script yourself. You added all this stuff to the script that wasn't even there. Why don't you let the creator say, no, here's the script and you're good.
Mm-hmm. And I think that is potentially, if there's anything I feel like I have learned from the thousands of people I've talked to in the last 10 years, probably the most catalytic thing to allowing us to find clarity in who we are and the courage to take a step towards what we want starts with being able to look in the mirror and truthfully say, I am good. Not just a characteristic of you, not just a physical attribute of you, not just one thing you accomplished, not just a goal you knocked off, not just because you did a habit for 50 days, not like I had a realization. It's probably been 3 or 4 weeks ago. I was at an event, a speakers event, a growth thing for established speakers and kind of taking your business to the next level. And I had this moment. And I'm at a, and this is true story. I'm sitting at a table, and if you can imagine, so we're in this small kind of intimate event space, and a lady who's been in the bookings industry and bureaus and had her own agency for like 20 years, she's leading, and we've got all these industry experts, they're all around us. Okay, and so I'm sitting at the table, and I actually found out about the event 2 days before the event, got solidified I could go to the event the day that it started. So I got a call at 10 a.m. and they said, hey, it starts tonight at 5. If you can be there, you're in. And I'm like, yeah. Great.
Wow.
I'll try to be there at 5 and it's all day tomorrow. I'll clear my calendar, I'll get there, right? Because I'm like, I'm so hungry. Where I'm at, you and I talked before, like where I'm at now, I'm like, yeah, give me anything. So I sit down at this table. I got my notes out. I'm feeling good, right? I got my Jordans on, and not I got Rocky's version of business casual, and so feeling nice. And to my right is a guy named Justin Forsett, who's a previous NFL player, Pro Bowler, running back for the Baltimore Ravens. Across from me is a USA Olympic gymnastic gold medalist, all-around champion in female gymnastics. And next to her is a 3-time Canadian Olympian, 2-time gold medalist in the bobsled, and inducted into the World Rugby Hall of Fame. And me.
No resume, Rocky.
So let's be very clear. When we're talking about you are good, I panicked internally. Now, externally, I'm like, oh, this is awesome. Oh, yeah, I love these such good notes, right? And inside, I'm like, this is why. Like, this is why it doesn't work. Like, this isn't going to work. This is who I'm competing with. Like, I'm supposed to vie for a spot on the stage with 2 Olympians, a Hall of Famer, and a Pro Bowler. Hey, but let's talk about it. How about we talk about our feelings and how we can get to know ourselves, because that'll be good. You should hire me. And there was probably 10 or 15 minutes that I sat there. I couldn't even tell you what we were talking about, because for 10 or 15 minutes, I was pretty convinced that this was the end of the road. Like, if this is what it takes to get to the next step, I don't know what to go accomplish to get you to trust me. I don't know how to get you to trust me. And then I feel like I had this realization to go, hold on a second. All of their accomplishments I'm looking at as badges. Like, those are all the badges. You know, like when you're a Girl Scout or a Boy Scout, you get the little
Oh,
thing at the back. Like,
yeah.
I'm looking at all of their badges and going, look at all of those badges. And they're looking at, and then I had this moment of realization going, they're looking at all their badges going, can we get rid of these? I'm so tired of being the 2004 gold medalist. I'm so tired of being the Pro Bowler from 10 years ago. I just want to get on stage and be me. And then I was like, wait a second, I want to get on stage and be me. And then I was like, wait a second, what if everything in life that we are attempting to use as a badge and honor to get value is actually a brick laid in the foundation of where we are going next? Because I've got lots of bricks and I've got lots of things that I've seen and I got lots of experience and I've got lots of moments that have laid foundationally how you and I arrived at this table together. Now, my bricks may not be gold. Either way, what if instead of me trying to prove my value based on the badges I could wear, I trusted my value based on the bricks I was standing on? And I thought to myself, if you're ever going to get on a stage again and be heard and be believed and create the impact you want for the next decade, you better start by looking at the mirror and saying that you are good. Because you can't tell it to anybody else unless you're going to believe it yourself. And I think for those of you conscious investors listening, it's not that what you've accomplished doesn't matter, but it's not what matters the most. And as long as we keep looking at successes and failures as badges, we're either going to be the hero or the victim, and we never actually just get to be us. But if we can look at the good and the bad and not be the victim or the hero, but just be us, I think we'll be amazed by the road that we have built so far and the path that we have carved, the foundation that we can stand on, and the opportunity we have to go forward in almost any direction, but not until we're willing to believe that we're good.
So insanely insightful, Rocky. And to have that perspective and that awareness to be able to say, to recognize that they're badges and to recognize the bricks. It's easy, especially for high achievers. It's easy. And I've been wrestling with this myself because you and I are both in massive transition points in our businesses. And that whole concept of, well, what got me here, I've been saying this to my husband all the time, like, okay, what got me here is not enough to go where I want to go. I can't create the impact I want playing at this level. This is good. It's good, but it's not what I want. But as soon as I started, there's this window of time. And honestly, I think this conversation is going to be probably, the gateway into a new perspective. And I thank you for that, because it's so easy when we're trying to create and generate to look to the left, to the right, to the person ahead, instead of just saying, but I am, and I am good.
That's it. Because from there, everything else can flow. Now I want to say, hey, I want to get into a journey to really discover who I am, because I am good. And I want to, you know what? And my marriage has been struggling, but I am committed to showing up with whatever I have every day to try to match 100%, because it is good. And and now we are coming from a place that we're not judging every action that we take and putting a value to it in order to be justified, right? We are saying, I am already entrusted. I have already been, and here's to me, again, we talked about words. I love words. I have already been confirmed and affirmed, and they're different. Most of us are in a pursuit of confirmation and wonder why we feel how we feel, because we refuse to believe that we actually desire to be affirmed. Confirmation is just a truth. It either is or it isn't. I will confirm. You get a confirmation email when you book a ticket.
Boom. Yeah.
You know what would change? You know what I think, I hope somebody picks this up, and if they do, I want 2% revenue share. You know what would change my mind if American Airlines sent me? Stop sending me confirmation emails and start sending me affirmation emails. Start sending me an email that says, hey, your flight is booked and it's true, but you know what? Here's the reason it's also good. I'm telling you, I would look at that email. There's something about that that'd be like, hey, American Airlines just sent my affirmation. But there's a reason we don't say that. It's because they're not trying to tell us anything good. They're trying to tell us what's true. And most of us want to be right. So we don't even know why. Mm-hmm. We want to be right so badly that when we get confirmation, we stop pursuit of everything because we think that's the end. But if we could let go of our desire to be right and occasionally allow ourselves to be left, because most things in life are not right and wrong, they're right and left. It might be cheesy, but I'm telling you, it makes sense. If we would allow ourselves to be left or allow ourselves to be right, all of a sudden we would find this freedom to go, I don't want to just be confirmed. I don't want for you just to tell me, hey, you're a great speaker and that's true. I want you to tell me you're a great speaker and it's good. I don't want you to tell me that I'm unique and it's true. I want you to tell me that I'm unique and it's good. I don't want my kids to tell me that I am a dad. I want them to tell me that I am a good dad. I don't want to be identified just by the simple truths in my life. I want to be identified by the truths in my life that I've had the ability to create goodness. And again, I think that comes back to us. It comes back to the ability that it takes work and it is effort and it is not easy. And like, it's a lot. And for us to expect anything different, I think is a little bit on our end is like a little bit like, hey, it's going to be work. But most things in life that we really love are, including us.
It's so important to understand. And I think that there's a nuance here that's really critical, that being able to, the affirmation portion, right? That difference between confirmation and affirmation, and to be able to say, we're humans hardwired, created for community and created for connection, for connectivity. And when we have that affirmation, it lets us know that our tribe, our community, we're connected, like we're accepted, we're affirmed into it, and we're part of it. And everyone wants their place where they belong. Everyone wants to, and I think you touched on that earlier, is, like everybody just wants to know, this is where I belong and it's good.
Yeah. I think there's three things I found in the last, call it the last 2 decades. If I could boil down, what does every person want? Everyone wants to know they're unique. I don't care who you are. I've never met a person that's like, you know what? Nah, chalk me up to being like everybody else. I mean, I've literally never, at every age, right, every demographic, sociographic, psychographic, put a category on someone. Every person I've met wants to know they're unique. Number 2, they want that uniqueness to be affirmed. They want someone else in the world to believe that uniqueness is in fact good. And if we can get crazy, like 3rd tier of human achievement, I'm unique. Someone told me that uniqueness is good and I believed them. And I found a way to use my uniqueness for good in the world. If every major company out, and maybe I'm naive, but if every company out there that existed had the 3 pillars of their company culture was, we see your uniqueness, we affirm your uniqueness, and we're going to find a way for your uniqueness to be used for good, Deloitte could make a lot more money.
Lots. Wow. How do we know? How do we know where we fit? That was a question. That was something I wrote down from the very, very get-go, and it kind of takes it full circle, is how do we even know that we actually fit? Because we have people say that we're good, but maybe we have resistance towards them. Like, great. Hey, I know I'm good. I look in the mirror. Yep, you're good. Your heart's in the right place. You're using everything you can. God's being glorified. That's awesome. But the source over there telling me I'm good, it's really not that trusted source. Maybe that person I really resonate with, so, right? How do we know where we fit, right?
Yeah. So I think let's let me ask one question about your question, and then we'll see what we come up with. The idea that we want to be affirmed, I think, is less about finding a person out there to tell us that we are good. And I think it's the spaces that we are in, we are consistently affirmed that there's a goodness that we have. So I'm like my neighbor, Joe, next door. He's a nice guy. I like him. I'm not that concerned if Joe thinks that I'm good. Not that it's not important, but at the end of the day, look, Joe, You ain't paying my electric bill for my boy. So like, I'm not really that worried about it. So for us to come back, to me, when we talk about earlier the imposter within, we talk about unraveling these stories. Like, to me, that's the second step. There's a step prior to the ability to say, who am I? And that is, who am I? Have I done the work to bring clarity of self? I use a framework called identity mapping. Do I have a framework of who I am? Again, not good, not bad, not positive, not negative, I'm not even telling you it's good yet. I'm just saying, you want to know who you are. I can guide you through an exercise that allows you to see who you are. At that moment, now we can jump to workshop number 2, which is stories told to me, stories told about me. And that will then come back against what we just found out to be true about who we are. Then that is the part that can be affirmed. So I want to make sure to go, okay, how do we know where we fit? Well, I think we got to go backwards a step and say, well, first of all, who am I? Because to just say I'm going to get rid of the story someone told to me about me, if we don't have a new language and new words and a new narrative, we're going to go back to our book. We're going to read chapter 1 again. We're going to write a single chapter, and then we're going to reread that same chapter the rest of our life, wondering why the story never changed. So you don't just come up with this. You can't write a new story with the same words. You got to have new words. So for me, it's first clarity of self, which is giving ourselves a new language. Unraveling the old story, rewriting a new story with new words. So I think in order to go forward, we first got to go backwards. That'll allow us to find the through line all the way to the other side.
Okay, I love that. I absolutely love that. It's so powerful. Rocky, you and I know that we could talk on and on. It's like, oh, hey, you know what? We'll just have like sequential episodes. Unfortunately, time doesn't allow for all of that. And this has just been so rich and meaningful. And Conscious Investor, I know that, we strive for a meaning-filled life. We strive for health, wealth, and our strong mindset. And that comes back to really understanding who we are and knowing that we are good, and being able to receive all the uniqueness that we're created with. Rocky, I cannot thank you enough for your time. And I would love to make sure that, conscious investors know how they can find more of your amazingness, because guess what? You are good.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, friend. So you can find me. There's not a lot of Rocky Garzas out there. So you can find me at rockygarza.com, Instagram.com/Rocky Garza, Facebook/Rocky Garza, LinkedIn /Rocky Garza, all the places out there. I don't have enough subscribers on YouTube because you haven't subscribed yet if you're listening. But when I do, it'll be at Rocky Garza for now. Just search Rocky Garza on YouTube. But most importantly, I would say just go to dailyisdaily.com. That's kind of my mantra for life. As daily no matter the time of day. So if you go to dailyisdaily.com, there'll be just a landing page there. I would love for you to join. I send an email once a week. I send a text message 7 days a week to over 1,000 people, just as a way to challenge and encourage you. I'm not asking you for anything. I literally am the one who types them in there, and I respond if you text me back. So I think that's the best way for us to get connected, is I would love to get you into the ecosystem of what we're doing, and help guide you in any way we can in that way. So again, it's just the dailyisdaily.com, or you can just find me at rockygarza.com.
Love it. Conscious Investor, make sure it's always good to fill our inbox with really great quality, information and just narratives that are going to fuel us and refuel us, because we have to have a refueling station. There's a lot of things that can just suck the energy from us and deplete us and drain us. And so we need these, newsletters like this that are going to come in and just help restore and replenish and rejuvenate. So don't be a stranger. Make sure you go and sign up for Rocky's newsletter at dailyisdaily.com. I absolutely love that. And Conscious Investor, don't be a stranger. If we have not spoken yet, and I think it's been a while since I've actually said this, but if we have not spoken yet about your goals, then what are you waiting for? I know that sounds more like a third date type thing, right? But it's like, no, don't be a stranger. Find time down in the show notes. You can schedule time if you're interested in coaching. I actually have a new group coaching that I am opening up, the Growth Accelerator. And so you can schedule time. We can talk about that. Maybe you want one-on-one, or maybe you are looking to grow your wealth through real estate investments. Whatever your goals are, I am here to serve and support you. So please don't be a stranger. You will talk to me. You won't talk to anybody else. You're going to talk to me, and we'll have a lot of fun. So until next time, cheers to health, mindset, and wealth.